Sunworks participants. This has been a fantastic opportunity for me to come and listen to all the different experiments that you have all performed all across the city, across all different areas related to sustainability. I am not a hydroponics specialist, nor am I a farmer, nor am I a NASA scientist, but I work in an energy company. And what I've heard today is actually, interestingly, still really relevant to the work that I do. And let me explain a little bit about that. So, a little bit about me. I also grew up in New York City. I love to be outdoors, even despite the fact that maybe the parks weren't quite so pretty as they are out in the suburbs. I had a huge imagination, and I really enjoyed reading and writing. But over time, I also found that I became really interested in math and science, and I also became quite good at it. I decided that it would be a really great idea to not have to choose one type of activity or another in terms of my studies and my career. So I decided to study engineering, where I can bring together creativity as well as math and science discipline together. I got my degree in engineering also right here in New York City. You can see me graduating with my friends. It was a great experience. And then from there, went on to many different types of roles in my career. So, of course, being an engineer, as you can see from the top picture, I spent a lot of time trying to do problem solving, working to implement new technologies in the energy space. And I applied my math and science learning very much all the time. But what I also learned was super important to do was to be able to communicate about it. So the picture with the phone is showing how important it is to be able to explain to others what you've learned, what you're doing, and why it matters. And that makes a really big impact in terms of trying to make change and get things done. Events like today, like your student conference, are a perfect opportunity for you to start to see what that's like. It's as important for your learning to be able to do these experiments, but it's also important for you to be able to share it with others and inspire them as well. I know when I was introduced, I have a really long title that's kind of hard to understand. So let me explain a little bit about the work that I do now, which is quite different than just pure engineering. So there's 3 aspects to my role. The first one is risk management. Risk management is about asking questions like, what is my best move? What could go wrong? If I did a different move, could something go better? How do I make those choices? The second aspect of my role is resilience or resiliency. Resiliency asks questions like, how can I be prepared for if something does not go according to my plans? And if something really truly does not go well with my plans, how do I bounce back? How do I recover from that? So you'll see here, there's a picture of palm trees. They're a great example because they're resilient. When palm trees face a storm, they bend, but they don't break. This is a picture of what they call the calm after the storm. And you'll see how palm trees will lean, and they might even look a little bit bent, but they haven't been broken. It's about being able to withstand. The final aspect to my role probably really resonates the most with the students in this room, and that's directly around sustainability. Sustainability asks questions like, how does this impact not just my generation, but future generations? If I do something, could there be an unintended consequence? It's about thinking further into the future and more about how things connect. Saying the word connect, I hope maybe some of you have noticed too that I've drawn a circle around all 3 of them and that the circles cross over somewhere in the middle. Some of our older students here might recognize that as a Venn diagram. In the center of the Venn diagram, that's where everything interconnects. So, by example, again, when you think of your experiments and when you're hearing the experiments of the other students today, that's great inspiration to help you make connections together and to think about how else you can creatively solve problems. A quick note about just my company. I mentioned it's a power company, and our focus is to produce clean power and transmit that clean power across New York State. But we also have to be mindful about affordability. Can customers afford to pay for their energy? And we have to think about sustainability. How do we create that energy and move that energy about with the least negative impact on the planet? This is why I really love the job that I do, and it intersects and brings a lot of that together. Many of you talked today about climate change, around sustainable practices, and about thinking, again, how things interconnect and make a difference. You can see now how this can relate to what you might do in your future careers. With that, here are some pictures of what is happening in the energy industry, because as we all know, it's changing quite a bit. In my company, we have, for a very long time now, almost 100 years, produced clean electricity just using the power of water. And if you look at the lower picture, now we're also looking to see how many other ways we can use the power of the sun to help supplement that generation of power. Some of the pictures in the middle show how we're using new technologies to help us in this space. So the top picture shows a control center. We're using data, we're using artificial intelligence, we're using machine learning, because that helps us to do our experiments and make our analyses more efficient and quick. We're also using things like drones. I think many of you would recognize a picture of the drone in the middle, because that's helping us do things safer. We want to be able to inspect our energy equipment, and sometimes it's located in a place that's really hard to get to. When we use other types of technologies that don't need a person, it keeps somebody safe on the ground. The other aspect to point out is we have to connect the energy from where it's produced to where it's needed. Those are transmission lines, and we have to bring more and more of those across New York State, as well as across the country, and then globally. So just having something is never good enough. We have to get it to where it's actually needed in society. The most important additional aspect that we have to keep in mind, though, is if you look at the picture with the flower and our pollinator, the monarch butterfly, as we look to connect this energy, as we look to build more ways and more assets that produce that electricity that human beings need to live, to work, and even to power their cars now, we have to be mindful that we're not having a negative impact on nature. And what we're actually trying to do is find ways to work better with nature and integrate it into our approaches and how we operate. Another really important connection to all the stuff that I've heard today. Finally, about the future. What is this? What do you see? It's a blank page, and that is because you are the ones that are going to be filling it. The future is yours, and bringing forward your creativity, what you're learning through your hydroponic classrooms, through your math and science teachers, and from your literature, your drawing and your writing teachers, bringing that all together, making those connections, and then communicating that forward to others, sharing what you've learned so they can make connections as well. That is what is going to help really make an impact in our changing global climate. Great job today. Please enjoy your conference, and thank you for having me attend.